can't underline enough how important it is to get something out there into your prospective customers' hands, because they will tell you what's working and what's not working.
Welcome to Built to Scale, where we have real conversations with entrepreneurs just like you about what it takes to build a thriving business without sacrificing your personal life. My name is Craig Severinsen, and I help people make more money working with better clients while also working less. And now I'm sharing it all with you. Let's dive in.
What is up, and welcome to episode 29 of Built to Scale. This, of course, is Craig Severinsen, and I'm really excited today because our guest, James Hipkin, is the founder and CEO of Innately, which is a website development tool. And man, he brings the fire today. There's three things in particular that I think you're really going to love about this episode. So number one, which I just found really fascinating, was using your current capabilities and resources to expand your business in innovative ways. And I think, this is kind of like that's maybe a really vague way of saying it, but it's really all about looking at your current business and where the opportunities in the marketplace are and marrying those two things. And he has a really unique approach that I think you're going to really love. Number two, we talk a lot about staying client-centric and how that's important, not just for growing your business in terms of marketing, but also retaining your business. So keep an eye out for that. How do you stay client-centric? And then number three, James actually added another avenue in his business, or another offer in his business, and it went really well. And this is something that I see a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. So I dove into that a little bit deeper with him about how he was able to launch a secondary offer so successfully. And it gives us the number one tip or strategy to make that an inevitability. And it's gonna blow your mind what it is. So keep an eye out for that. So that's what I got for you today. I can't wait for you to get into it. So let's dive in. Start us off and just give us some background, like what is it that you're doing right now? Tell us about your business.
Well, right now, we have two areas of service. Broadly speaking, we're involved in building and managing and hosting websites. The main business is a company called Red 8 Interactive, and it does development work for design agencies. We act as the construction general contractor to the design agency who, does the UX design and the graphic design and that sort of thing. And that's for large corporate websites. Often budgets are into six figures. Traffic to the site might reach seven figures monthly. So these are big sites, complicated, lots of custom work, lots of custom back-end integrations, that sort of thing. Kind of a roundabout way of saying we actually know what we're doing. And then 5 or 6 years ago, I was looking at ways to take the bottom off the ebbs and flows of the inherent nature of project work. I mean, it's great when we've got 3 jobs going on simultaneously. Everybody's got more work to do than they know what to do with. And then there'll be a 6-week gap where there's nothing going on. The other thing I noticed was that smaller businesses couldn't afford to work with us.
Okay.
And yet, when I looked at the awful websites they had, they should be working with us.
They're the ones that needed it the most.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how could I create a product that would allow these smaller businesses to access our knowledge and expertise in a cost-effective way? And that's where Innately came about. It's a website subscription product specifically designed for smaller businesses. And by using a software as a service model, I was generating, monthly recurring revenue, which helped me with my business problem of how do I take the bottoms off the ebbs and flows. And it also allowed us to bring our expertise to bear on these smaller businesses that really truly needed our help. It's a truth. I hope everyone will nod their head when I say this. The website is the most valuable digital asset that a business owns.
So,
And
so
most of
there's a
them are terrible.
Yeah, most of them are terrible. Yeah. So I want to, if you'll indulge me, I want to peel back the onion a little bit on some of the things you said.
Sure.
And you know, in a previous conversation you and I had, we were talking about you starting innately, and you said to me that one of the things you saw, and you kind of said it here too, but not as clearly as before. You said you had all these employees, developers, and there'd be times where they weren't doing anything. And
Right.
so you were like, how do I use that resource? Can you talk to us
Yes.
a little bit about that? Because I thought that was really genius how you approached that. So can you share how that kind of thought process went for you?
Okay. Well, as I like to tell my clients, building a website is not magic. It takes work. Well, equally, creating innately, I couldn't add water to a pill and instantaneously I have software as a service. So what I would do is during the ebbs and flows of the project work that we're doing for Red 8 Interactive for the big companies, I would use developer downtime to build the software that we needed for innately. So I was utilizing their available bandwidth to solve this other business problem that I had, which meant that I was using the investment in paying guys to be on the bench to actually build out another business model.
So which came first? Was it I have this resource that isn't being used? How do I use it? Or was it I've got this opportunity? How do I feel the opportunity? Which came first for you?
They kind of were simultaneous. It's the business problem was, how do I knock the bottoms off the ebbs and flows of project work? The reason why this was important was because I was paying the developers, regardless of whether they were, more, too busy. They were so busy that it was making them crazy. Um, so they worked hand in hand. That I've got this resource that can do amazing things, and I have this business problem. How do I solve the problem? I identified two problems in the marketplace. The one I've already talked about, which is small business owners need a professionally designed, built, managed website, but don't want to become a webmaster.
Uh-huh.
Um, and fly by night web dev just wasn't getting it done for them. Um, the other opportunity that I identified was there was a wonderfully rich, untapped resource in America. It's actually global, but talk about America for the moment. And that's all of the really intelligent women who've decided to stay home with their children. And they were looking for a part-time job that paid better than minimum wage, but most importantly, where they could control their hours.
Mm.
So when we wrote the software that we use to support the innately website subscriptions, we wrote that software with that audience in mind so that I could train, these smart women, mostly women, to actually design and build these websites using our intellectual property for small business owners. And that's worked out really, really well.
So then they become almost like contractors. Is that what you're saying? That they
That's
kind of own
right.
their own business, their own. They just use your software to help deliver on the promises.
That's right. They are purely contractors to us. They don't go direct to their own clients, but we provide the resources, the intellectual property, and also if they do get stuck, if there's something that needs to happen or something breaks, we have a team of highly skilled developers available that can step in and fix pretty much anything. So it's a good balancing act between their needs of I need a part-time job where I can control my hours and our needs. we need a resource that's flexible and our clients' needs, which is they don't want to be a webmaster anymore.
There's a bigger conversation here that we could have, and maybe it's not the direction we want to go, but I think that is part of a larger trend in terms of, in general, since the pandemic hit and everything shifted to virtual, so many people are saying, I'm not going to go back to work unless it's flexible, unless it's a hybrid model. And I think that you tapping into certainly people that want to. I know I'm not a woman, but I can speak for myself. The reason I went into business for myself, 7 years ago, was I had a child that was born and I wanted to be at home with my kids. So certainly
Right.
that is a resource that is, out there and needed to be tapped. But I think that that's part of a bigger trend too. Like, in general, people aren't wanting to go back to work. They're wanting this hybrid model. They're wanting more flexibility, more control.
Right. And the flexibility is really the the advantage. I mean, a curious subset has generated out of this is about 60% of our content specialists, that's what we call these women, are military spouses.
Oh, interesting.
And for them, I mean, the two things I look for when I'm hiring for this position are they responsible and are they nice? I can't teach those things.
Yeah.
I can teach everything else. I can teach them how to, design a website. I can teach them best practices, best in UX. I can teach them how to use our software, etc. I can't teach them how to work together as a team, and I can't teach them how to be nice. And military spouses, because they're always being moved around, this is a very attractive job for them because I don't care where they live.
Yeah.
And yet by virtue of their environment that they live in, if they haven't figured out how to be responsible and how to be nice, they do not survive in that world.
Yeah. Lessons that they should have learned when not necessarily them, but lessons people should have learned when they were 5, 6, right? Did they learn it, and are they still applying it today?
Right.
I want to take a step back really quickly, because you had this moment where you said, okay, we're servicing these high-end clients with big budgets, and we also see this other opportunity, and so we're going to kind of split and have two different products, two different offers, two different markets. And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs take that step, and it's a huge stumble. It's a huge, it sets them back crazily. They lose half, because they're splitting their time, it fails miserably and they lose all the momentum they've had. So what was it about either your resources or your timing that was like, this is a good move for us, that helped you be successful? Does that make sense? Like, how did you know this was the right moment to make that move?
Well, clarity of 2020 hindsight, honestly, I didn't know whether it was going to work or not. But I think the key that allowed us to be successful in this transition was patience.
Okay.
Because it would have been so much faster if I could have somebody walked up and handed me $500,000 and said, here, go build this software, probably could have gotten it all done in a year. Right. But we didn't have that luxury. But we did have developer downtime and we did have patience. So we used those two things to take our time to build the solution, used our network to get some early beta customers on board. That was interesting. Made lots of mistakes, but we were making the mistakes on a minimally viable product. We were making the mistakes on something that was small and quite low risk for everybody involved. And as a result, we were able to, learn and adjust and learn and adjust, and we continue to learn and adjust. But I hear you where you're coming from. And to this day, it's still a problem. These are two very separate business models.
Yeah.
One is a subscription service, ongoing, different caliber of people. The other is project basis, different financial involvement. It's not recurring. It's project-based progressive billing. I mean, it's just, they're very, very different. So it has taken some adjusting, and it absolutely is a point of friction on occasion. But we couldn't anticipate the pandemic, and having this base of recurring revenue in place got us through the pandemic, because the custom work vanished. It just nobody wanted to make any decisions about anything like this. It's beginning to come back now, but if we hadn't had the innately product in place, we probably wouldn't have survived.
Okay, so how do you deal with two very separate business models, right? How do you deal with that internally? Do you have like separate marketing teams, or do you have any special considerations for the both, or do you have just everyone working on both kind of avenues?
Well, the development team tends to be focused on the custom work that we do, and so that's their focus. And the area where the strongest crossover is with our project manager. She has to wear a couple of different hats and be dealing with two different kinds of client and two different kinds of projects. So to her credit, that's where the majority of this friction happens, is in the project management world. The developers tend to be focused very clearly on what they're doing on the custom side. And if there is a task involved on the innately software, then the project manager creates a ticket for this, and it gets just handled in the normal process. It's another software project that they're working on. The content specialists generally don't have a lot of input on the custom work, although that has changed a bit, in that we didn't used to be able to offer content entry work, but now we can. So there is some overlap. But generally, they're sufficiently isolated that it hasn't really been a problem.
Okay. I think so. There's just if I could wrap everything we've said so far up, there's a couple lessons that I would pull out. And one is this idea of looking at the market and looking at your resources and saying, here's where the two line. I think that's, the fact that you said I have developer downtime and I have this opportunity, and how do I marry the two? I think that's the mother of innovation, right? Like that's such a smart way of looking at it. And then two, diversifying your income, so that when the pandemic hit, it really saw you through. But it wasn't just diversifying the income; it was the timing behind it. Intentional or not, it's like you already had a business that was running fairly well in one category, and you were able to then go to the next one. And I think what most entrepreneurs fail to do is they fail to own that first category. It's like the category's half baked, and they're like, "Oh, let's try this other one too." And it's like, well, that's still cooking. You're not ready yet, So you had something that was working and was great, and were able to take those resources to then go to a new one, which I think is fantastic.
Well,
so you're go ahead.
I wouldn't underestimate the importance of patience.
Oh yeah.
Because if we tried to rush this, I don't know what would have happened. But I really believe that having the patience, and also the recognizing this concept, and you'll hear this in Silicon Valley talked about a lot, the minimally viable product.
Yeah.
I can't underline enough how important it is to get something out there into your prospective customers' hands, because they will tell you what's working and what's not working.
Yeah,
and save you a lot of time and energy.
And I love this idea of patience, both with the market and with your product, right? Most people don't want to do that minimal viable product, which I 100%, that's how I run my business too. But they don't want to do that because it's like they don't want to look bad, or they don't have the patience with themselves to improve the product. They want it perfect first, which almost never happens. And then it's also like, I wish I could remember what I was thinking of last night, but it popped into my head man, if I had done X thing 5 years ago, guess what? I'd be 5 years into it, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like it's the same thing right now. Like it's crazy as a business owner how quickly time flies by because we're so focused on what needs to happen now that it's like the days are long, but the years are short, right? Like
Right.
it feels like, oh my goodness, like we got to get stuff done now. But like you've got to be thinking, if this isn't worth doing 5 years in the future, is it really worth doing right now? And
Right.
setting
Exactly.
yourself up for long-term growth.
Well, and also, I think one of the other key messages, and I preach this to my clients as well, start from the outside and come in.
What do
We
you,
didn't, well, we started with what is the problem in the marketplace that needs to be solved? And then we came back from that problem into, okay, now how can we solve it? As opposed to, and I see this in the WordPress ecosystem an awful lot. Developers can do stuff, so they do stuff, and they produce these plugins that are full of all kinds of amazing technology that nobody wants or needs.
nobody wants it. Yeah.
You know, whereas what we tried to do is look at what is the real problem that needs to be solved. And hopefully this will make you laugh, but I want to tell a quick story. I got a phone call from one of my early clients on the Innately product. And I saw on caller ID who was calling. So I picked up my phone and said, "Hi, Joe. How are you? How can I help?" And there was silence and some shuffling around I heard, and et cetera. And I heard a chair creak, and he sat, he came back on the phone. I said, "Joe, what happened? What's the matter?" And he said, "I had to sit down." Why did you have to sit down, Joe? You are literally the first web developer I've ever called who answered their phone.
He wasn't even expecting you to answer the phone. He was so surprised he wasn't even near the phone.
And that, when you think about it, truly, for my audience for the Innately product, which is six-figure businesses who are or who want to be using digital marketing to drive growth, not startups, but businesses that have gotten past that stage and they're ready to take it to the next level. For them, the problem that needs to be solved is, I don't want to be a webmaster anymore. Been there, did that, did the DIY thing, did the freelancer thing, etc. I want a reliable resource that I can just reach out to and things will get done.
Mm-hmm.
And since we already had the maintenance infrastructure in place to support the large corporate clients, we just piggybacked on that infrastructure because truly that's the problem that we're trying to solve here.
Yeah, and what you're saying is so smart because it's being client centric, customer centric is the key to real growth, to real traction, right? If you're
Yep.
you centric, kind of like what you said, you build something with all these bells and whistles, you may be able to convince one or two people to buy it, but are you going to be able to retain them, and are you going to gain the traction in the market? It's
Right.
a gamble. It's a real gamble. But if you start with that client, man, it's like you're stacking the deck so that you're guaranteed to win.
Well, and also when you take that strategy, the minimally viable product idea becomes a lot more vital because you're not out there trying to solve world hunger with software. You're just trying to get something that works and works from the point of view of the end user, not from the point of view of the developer. But it could be so much better. Just give me another 6 weeks. No, you don't have another 6 weeks. We're going to launch it like this. And yeah, shit's going to break, but no puppies will die. When things break, we'll get it fixed and we'll learn something from it.
And I think we as creators have this innate desire to make things complicated and make things do everything, but really clients and we as humans value simplicity. And it's difficult to have simplicity, to have something that is just like the direct route to success. That is so valuable. And yet as creators, we want it to be so complicated, right? We want it to be loops and whistles and all that stuff.
And there's merit in that too. I mean, everything in life is a teeter-totter. It's about finding the right balance. Any extreme is unhealthy. But if you can get the balancing act, see, I am not a developer. I am not a designer. I am a business person. I have designers and developers who work for me, and I have customers who we serve, and I act as the fulcrum.
Yeah.
Where I'm trying to maximize the value creation for the customers and for the team.
Interesting. So at the level you're at in your business now, you've got the team, you've got 2 products that are doing well. What are the new issues or problems you're facing, or maybe even like what surprised you about entering this new phase of your business that it's like, man, I didn't even see this coming?
It's not surprise. Maybe it is surprise. The business problem that really is the biggest hurdle for me from a point of view of marketing this product is the noise in the marketplace. Everybody claims they can make a website. If you're a small business owner and you post in a small business forum, I think I need a new website, within an hour, 200 people will chime in saying, I can do it for you for $500.
Yeah.
And technically, they probably can, but you have to ask yourself, should they? So breaking through that noise, establishing, okay, this is a resource that I can count on, without having Squarespace and Wix's budget. I can't pay for a Super Bowl ad, right? That's the business and marketing challenge that is inherent in this idea. Building the software and the rest of it, that's all technical stuff, and that gets done. Supporting the clients once they are clients, also we know how to do that. But breaking through that noise and getting a voice out there that goes, maybe I should go talk to these people. That's challenge. And I think that's a challenge for many smaller businesses.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's a common. So what are you doing to address that? Is there anything that you guys have found that's like, this is how we're addressing, or this is how we're working on it? Still in progress.
Well, it's still in progress, but we're doing it right now.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah. Okay.
By using podcasts.
I misinterpreted.
Yeah. By using podcasts and summits. And, I have over 40 years of experience in high-end digital marketing, advertising, big brands, big projects, multi-7-figure budgets. And I'm drawing on that knowledge and expertise to, hopefully break through the noise a little bit and go, this guy seems to know what he's talking about. And the other piece of this, Craig, that I think a lot of people lose track of, and that where podcasting is a very powerful medium for this, people buy people. And, my wife might argue with you, but I'm a nice guy. People like me, right? I've got contacts that are still reach out to me on a regular basis who worked for me 25 years ago. Websites are a technical thing. It's software. Stuff's going to break. If you can't feel comfortable reaching out to the people who are managing this thing for you and have an honest conversation, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But this is what so many business owners are facing right now. Have you tried to call Wix or Squarespace? And I can't tell you the number of times I've heard the same story over and over again. I hired this web developer and this designer, and they built this website, and it was beautiful. And then something stopped working, and I couldn't get them to return my phone call.
You know what I'm hearing in what you're saying to me, that you're not outright saying, but it's obvious that there's been a lot of research around what your clients want and around the competition, right? That's what I'm hearing from you, because you know who your competition is, their budgets. You're saying, how can I compete when I don't have that same budget? And you're also saying, here are the problems that we solve.
Right. That we really solve.
And so going back to that, you said the problem of breaking through all the noise in the marketing, like you haven't outright said it, but those are answers to those questions of like, how do I break through those noise that you're demonstrating for us? But we haven't out. So I'm just pointing them out because I'm seeing them and I'm saying, this is a master marketer at work. And if we don't point it out, we might miss it. Well, so James, we're almost out of time. So let me ask you two questions. So number one, what is like the biggest takeaway for people who are in your similar situation? They've got a growing business. Like, what would be your number one piece of advice for them? And then the second question is going to be, where can we find you? So what do you? Let's start with those questions.
Okay, first question. I'll tell you another quick story. There was a guy named Peter Lynch who managed the Magellan Fund for years. Very successful mutual fund. And he was asked by a business reporter, to what do you owe the success that you've had with the Magellan Fund? And he was expecting a complicated, detailed explanation about trends and marketplaces and all that stuff. But what Lynch said was, water the flowers and prune the weeds. If it's working, do more of that. If it's not working, stop doing that.
Such simple advice and yet really profound. I love that so much. Okay, so where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or Innately, or they want to hire, they want to use that service to build their website? Where do they find you?
Well, let's start by recognizing that the website is the most valuable asset that a business owns, digital asset that a business owns. Mm-hmm. And most of them are terrible. So what we do, we have a philosophy. If you're going to have a website that's going to create value for your customers and value for your business, you have to engage visitors. And the reality is you have 6 seconds or less to engage a visitor. And the 6 seconds doesn't start when the page loads. It starts when the page is asked for. So we have an audit that we do, the 6 seconds or less audit. And I would encourage people to reach out, go to 6secondsorless.com, book some time on my calendar, and let's have a look at your website. At a minimum, you'll get 30 minutes of my time, and I will share all kinds of insights into marketing, digital marketing, making a website that actually works for your customers and for your business. And then we can see where the conversation goes from there. So 6secondsorless.com, and love to chat with you, love to share some of my knowledge and insights relative to your website and see if I can't make it a little bit better.
Love it, James. And if so for the, because we have this on YouTube and on the podcast. So on the podcast, that's 6 spelled out, SIX, secondsorless.com. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure, Greg. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks so much for listening. If this episode helped you, share with someone who needs to hear it as well. For more information on how you can work with me and great resources for your business, head over to builttoscalehq.com. Join us next time for Built to Scale. And until then, take some fast, focused, imperfect action. I believe in you. I got your back. We'll talk soon.